Okay, welcome to this tutorial. Today we would like to talk about the AWS global infrastructure. So I'm going to start with some basic terms related to the AWS, and then I'm going to log into the console for now, just show you some menus and functions that we are having in the AWS console, and then we'll go deep through each of them and try to understand each of them more and more. As you can see in this page, it calls AWS Global Infrastructure, and I would like you to see some new terms related to the AWS infrastructure, and these terms and keywords are regions and availability zones. And there's a explanation here in the AWS documentation website, and it says that we have, the AWS, it has 55 availability zones, and within 18 geographic regions and one local region around the world. I can say we have 19 regions and around 55 availability zones. So what are these terms? So if I want to explain about the regions and availability zones, I can tell you that the regions are geographical locations. They're physical locations like US East, US West, like London, like Ireland, like Sydney, like Tokyo. So there are physical locations around the world, and we call them regions in the AWS. And within each region, we have at least 2 or more availability zones. And what is availability zone? Availability zone is like a data center. Resources, it's like racks with servers with redundant power supplies and network gears. It's a data center that you can run your virtual machines or whatever you'd like inside the cloud in it. So in a nutshell, let's say in London, which is a region, we have 2 availability zones, and they are different data centers, which they are in the London region, but they are separate from each other, maybe from 20 kilometers away from each other. And in case of something happened to one of the availability zones, the other one is online. Let's say there is a power outage with one of the availability zones, the other one is okay, although it's still in the London region. So if you look at this map here, you can see in the picture that we have different regions. These yellow, orange ones, these are regions, and within each region we have different availability zones. So right now we have 19 regions in AWS, and these are the name of the regions. So US East, for example, it's Virginia, Ohio, and US West, we have California and Oregon. APAC, we have Bombay, Seoul, Singapore, Sydney, Tokyo, and Osaka local. And in Canada, we have the Central Canada. These numbers that you are seeing inside parentheses, these are availability zones. Let's say in Canada, which is a region, it's a geographical, it's a physical location, we have 2 availability zones. It means in the Central Canada, we have 2 different data centers with different power and different network gears and infrastructure separate from each other. And if you need to have something as a high available like HAS stuff, then you need to run it in both availability zones inside Canada. So we have China, Europe, South America, and this is the Gulf Cloud, which is located in the US West region, and this is specifically for the government of the US. And there are new region coming soon in Bahrain, Hong Kong, in China, Sweden, and another one for the governments in US East. There's some explanation in this web page related to the high availability through the multiple availability zones. And we have replication between the regions. It means that we can copy data from one geographical location to another one easily. So there are lots of explanation here related to the regions again. Another thing that I would like to explain is edge network locations. So we have some terms here like we call it AWS edge locations. If you check these numbers, there are even more than the regions and availability zones. What are these edge locations? If you are familiar with the CDN or content delivery network, these edge locations are like data centers or like servers around the world that you can use them for caching. As an example, let's say we have edge location in Montreal, and let's say you have a server in Sydney region in Australia. If you have an edge location in Montreal and you are in Canada, then what the AWS is going to do is whenever you are browsing something or you're trying to see something from the server which is in Australia, the content of that server will go, the AWS will transfer it to the Montreal edge location servers, and it's going to cache them there. And if you are inside Canada, then you can browse it faster. So that's the purpose of caching. And AWS take advantage of these edge locations in order to cache the content and run them faster. So these three terms are really, really important for us. Region, again, geographical location and in physical different places. And then availability zones. Within each region, we have at least two availability zones, which they are data centers, and we can run resources on them. They have a redundant power supply and redundant network gears. And then we have edge locations, which we are using it for the content delivery network and for caching our resources. I have other pages open here. Another one is region and availability zones. If you look at this picture, inside each region we have multiple availability zones, and the regions are separate from each other. So in the picture it's clear that let's say you are running some resources on a region like US West, and inside that region there are multiple availability zones. And in order to avoid downtime or power outage of your server or services, so you need to spread them across availability zones for high availability, and then you have uptime more than 99.9999%, for example. So this is important, and these are the name of the code names of the regions and the location of them. Usually when you're configuring any resources inside the AWS, you have to mention that which region you want to start working, and then inside the region we can select the availability zones. So it's a drop down, it's like a drop down inside the console, and we can take a look at this one and use it for selecting a region. And also when we are going through the CLI, which is very important for automation, and when we want to run just commands and make some resources inside AWS, then also the red regions and availability zones are important. As you can see, there are parameters that we have to specify which region name we want to spin up our resources. Another page that I have here, again, we have regions and we have multiple availability zones. Lots of explanation. I really like the documentation from the AWS. It's pretty straightforward, and if you go through them, you can get some really cool stuff. Again, we have the region names here, and after a while, when you're working with the AWS, you become familiar with these names, and people are talking about them. For example, some people are saying, I ran my virtual machine in Oregon, for example. I ran it in North Virginia, or for example, my virtual machine is running in the Sydney region in Australia. Anyway, in this tutorial, in this video, I just want to explain a little bit about the region availability zones and edge location. I hope you got the point of these three terms, and I'll see you in the next lecture. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comments and I'll reply back to you as soon as possible. Okay, see you in the next lecture.